Hello everyone, welcome to our Truth Be Told YouTube channel with your hosts Rick Howard and Mike Maney.
Hello everyone, welcome to session number, what is it, 59, Mike?
59.
59. And are we still up at 77 or so subscribers?
I think 78.
78?
Yeah. I finally subscribed. I'm just kidding.
Today is July the 27th, 2022. And I was just giving Mike a bad time before we came on that summertime here in the Central Valley of California is often as many days over 100 degrees. But the 10-day forecast is for like the mid 90s, which for us during this time of summer is great. It's perfect for the crops because if it gets over 100 for several days straight, big crops here like tomatoes, they'll start shutting down instead of producing. And so what they really like is like a low to mid 90s, cool or warm nights, and let that stretch out over a couple of weeks and things just take off. So a lot of crops are kind of like people, you know, we can survive and do pretty well in the low to mid 90s, but it starts pushing over 100. We start melting.
Yes.
And hunkering down and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So
I was going to be upper 90s.
You said you're going to be close to 100 by this weekend, huh?
Yeah, upper 90s, leading up till Friday. I think is 100, 101 or something like that.
Has it been a hot summer there?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you said no fires yet. I mean, the year I came several years ago, there were quite a few fires around.
Yeah. So far, I mean, there may have been some little ones, but not local here, and nothing to speak of right now.
Well, before we get into our session, would you mind giving a report? You just had your annual Bible conference just over the weekend, wasn't it?
Yes.
And what was the theme again?
The theme or title is Pass the Torch, or Passing the Torch. And it really started 2 years ago with the title was 2020 Vision, because it had turned the year 2020. Okay. And then from that, then it was what was the middle one?
Showing your age, Mike.
Staying the course. So getting your proper vision, okay, spiritual vision, 2020 spiritual vision. And then with that, then you need to stay the course. So now you've got your vision, stay the course. And so this year, while you're staying the course, you can't just keep it to yourself. You have to pass the torch. And so
did most of the speakers kind of try to weave that theme into their sermons?
They did, yes. Yeah. And there was very little, there was some, but very little overlap, as it were. So yeah, I kind of expected a little bit more overlap, but I think mostly it was Hebrews 12 was brought in by brother Brandon Tetford and Daniel Rice.
That'd be a natural passage to refer to.
Yeah.
Passing the torch.
We captured all of it on our Facebook. So Brother Easton, so in passing the torch, we voted on having 3 speakers from 3 different age brackets, let's say. So Brother Easton Waters was the youngest of the 3, and then Brandon Tetford was the middle, and then Daniel Rice was the elder.
Oh.
And so
Paul
to Timothy, Moses to Joshua, passing the torch down to someone younger.
Yeah.
So it went really well. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday we wrap it up.
How many attended and from how many states?
We had, of course, Montana, Washington, California, Idaho, Oklahoma, and New Jersey. And we got in Washington. So 67.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
No fights broke out, no accusations of heresy or anything?
No, but there may be a lag time on that.
As they go back and examine each other's sermons, I don't remember him saying that at the time. How dare he?
Yes. It was just really good. The venue was free. And so we saved probably upward to say $900 there.
Oh, wow.
So we'll probably get that venue. It's on the 6th floor of a bank building downtown Missoula. And so looking over the huge, big plate glass windows, you could see the Clark Fork River in the distance. People were rafting in that water. So
could you see it only when standing by the window, or could you see it sitting during the services to where it would distract?
Right. Yeah. I didn't notice too many people looking out, so while they were seated. So I think we're good there. But one of them, in my opinion, one of our more let's just say successful or enjoyable conferences.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So of course the host pastor is always hopeful that a meeting like this, if it goes well, is a boost to your own church in the long run.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I imagine it will be.
Yeah. And then we hope that what we experienced here for our own church, people would take home to their churches, and just catch that fire, pass the torch, because we really do believe we're in the last days. So we really do need to try to, pass the torch here and keep things going. And then Sunday, we had just gotten started around 10, and a family of 3 walks in. Wow. Filipino family. And so I think they just moved here. I didn't get a lot of information from them, but they just moved here from the Philippines. And
how in the world do they know about a meeting on the 6th floor of a bank building on
no,
Sunday?
so Sunday is back to our building.
Oh, back to your own building.
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So Friday, Saturday is the venue, and then Sunday is our own building. So they had seen our sign. We live just a few blocks away, and just in kind of going around in that area, they had seen our sign and came to church. So I followed up in an email, and they said they would be back this Sunday.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. I'll keep you posted on that one.
You hope after they listen to the pastor preaching that they'll say, we'll come back again the next Sunday?
Yeah, we're hoping. Yeah, because they haven't heard me yet. So we're hoping I don't ruin it all.
I'm sure you will give them good reason to keep coming back.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, we know they're in the right spot. We'll put it that way. So they couldn't be in a better place.
I've often copied Brother Ward, since both of us have such fond memories of him. I often copy him when people ask me, like, go to the gym and they know I'm pastoring and things. They say, well, how was a service yesterday? Brother Ward used to say, and I've copied it. Well, the sermon was mediocre, but the services were great.
Yes, I've said the same thing. Yes.
So you hope the overall service can overcome the.
Yes. Yeah, but you and I knew the truth. His preaching was not mediocre. So.
No, it wasn't. That's why I can say it kind of in jest too.
Yeah, right.
If some of my members are around, they'll correct me. That feels good. Yeah, no, Pastor, that was a really good sermon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's when they start agreeing with you, you're in trouble. Oh my.
Well, I'm glad you had a good meeting, Mike.
Well,
Are you already thinking about a theme for next year? What would be the theme after passing the torch?
I don't know. We'll have to give that some thought. Tonight we're going to.
You said that Hebrews 12 was already used, so you can't use crossing the finish line, but that would be a kind of an obvious next one. Yeah.
So we're going to debrief, go over it for tonight we usually rehearse it in the following Wednesday service. So I want to get some feedback on how it went. Yeah. So
well, it's the years we had our own Bible conference here, I would often do the same on the Wednesday night, even the next Sunday sometimes. Just open it up to the congregation, because It's important for them to have, they experienced a lot as a church. They were trying to be good hosts. They were taking it all in. They were being filled up with some really good spiritual food. And it's really good for them to have an outlet of expressing some of the things that they heard and felt. And, it's kind of an encouraging thing for the whole church to hear each other be able to address
Yes.
how much the meeting meant to them.
Yeah. Yeah. We always look forward to that session.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to be back at Truth Be Told. We've been what?
Yeah, it's been several weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're back at her.
Yeah, we don't know how it's going to look different. We've been using a number of sessions. We've been using GoToMeeting to record these, and it messed up on us today. So we're back to trying Zoom, and we were having problems with that before. So hopefully this works out well, and the quality of audio and video will be okay. And
also, our viewers might like to know that we've discovered a way to divide up our opening banter, and then the Bible study portion, and then the closing banter. So there's little markers on the YouTube. So those of you that don't care for the banter, you can go right to the Bible study.
Are you saying they think the actual Bible study is more interesting and important than our banter?
Can you imagine?
Yes, I can. So are you able to do that on Zoom the same way you did it on GoToMeeting, you think? Or
because it's done in YouTube.
Oh, that's right. It's done in YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. So
shows how advanced knowledge I am in technology.
No, there's no advanced knowledge there. Still trying to figure a lot of this out.
So here's where you'll see a little what do you call it? A mark?
A marker of some
when the
kind.
banter's over and the Bible
study. Banter's over. Okay. Hey, but we'll get back to it toward the end.
So this is session 59. Thank all of you who have been very patient with us. We've been working our way through Genesis and Exodus, and using the people and events to highlight how Christ is the central character, even in the Old Testament, as we call it. All the Bibles, pretty much, you can purchase, have that division of Old Testament and New Testament. I've come to not really prefer that. I don't know if I have a alternative, because previous Testament maybe, or the New Covenant. But anyway, because one reason I say that is we're kind of going through the Tabernacle part of Exodus now, the priests, the sacrifices. And if you strictly see the Bible as like this deep divide of Old Testament and New Testament, instead of flowing into one single unit as we should, then you miss so much of how the New Testament is laid out or developed. And basically the New Testament, as we call it, 27 books, most of it probably, is simply taking themes and principles, text, passages from the Old Testament, enlarging them to some degree, maybe explaining them in simpler language, or New Covenant language, we might call it. Maybe adding some new revelation to it. But the basic structure of the New Testament is built up on or within the structure of the Old Testament.
Yes.
And it really shows in a subject like the tabernacle and the priesthood and the sacrifices. I mean, if you look at the Bible as a single unified book, then when you're reading in Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy, we're talking about the various parts of the tabernacle, the duties, responsibilities of the priesthood, the various sacrifices and their purposes. Your mind will immediately go to the book of Hebrews
Mhm.
and realize that the book of Hebrews is largely large sections of Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, written in New Covenant language and applying it more directly or immediately to Christ.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, it's there in the Old Testament, but it really takes the book like Hebrews to highlight that for most people.
Mhm.
Because most people, unfortunately, and we pastors are probably guilty of helping this along, we don't often enough encourage our people to always be looking for Christ in any part of the Bible you're reading.
Mhm. Yes.
And if you do that, then even though you're reading about the, chapter after chapter after chapter about the structure of the tabernacle, the size of it, the building materials, the compartments, and then the role of the priest and the sacrifices in the tabernacle, you can kind of allow yourself to get disinterested or bored or wondering why is so much of the Bible being taken up with this.
Mhm.
But if you look at it through the lens of the book of Hebrews,
Mhm.
it takes on a brand new life.
Yeah.
And so the writer of Hebrews, if it was Paul or whoever it was, had a very, very strong Jewish Old Testament background, foundation.
Yes. Mhm.
And it simply has those things of Exodus and so forth directly in his mind when he wrote the book of Hebrews.
Mhm.
And in fact, it's the Holy Spirit kind of giving him an updated or refreshed view of those things in the Torah,
Mhm.
the first 5 books of the Bible, to New Testament believers, but they were Jewish believers.
Mhm.
So the people he was writing to also had a strong background in what we call the books of the Old Testament.
Mhm.
And so he was drawing heavily from that language, putting it together in such a way that Christ would be first and foremost. He would be highlighted. For instance, Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 1, after he spends a couple of chapters talking about Melchizedek and the role of the priests and so forth and the sacrifices, he stops in chapter 8, verse 1, and he says, now this is the main point. So it's like he's stopping and saying, everything I've written up to this point, here's the main point.
Mhm.
Here's really what I'm trying to get to or to talk about or to highlight,
Mhm.
the main or the chief point, the head point of the things we are saying. We have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle,
Mhm.
which the Lord erected and not
Mhm.
man.
Yes.
So even though we're talking about that tabernacle they built in the wilderness, carried into the promised land, later replaced by the temple, we're really talking about the true tabernacle, which is in heaven,
Mhm.
and the true high priest who came from heaven after the order of Melchizedek.
Mhm.
And we have that high priest today.
Yes.
So, for instance, in chapter 10 of Hebrews, it says, the law having a shadow of the good things to come. And of course, the tabernacle was part of the law. Tabernacle was part of what God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. And not the very image of the things, can never, with these same sacrifices, which they offer continually year by year, make those who approach perfect. And then it goes on to talk about it is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats could take away sins.
Mhm.
So he's trying to stress that those things of the tabernacle, everything connected to the tabernacle and later the temple, were pictures of what was to come. But at the same time, they were not just merely symbolic or ritualistic. They did have deep spiritual meaning.
Yes.
And it was disobedience. If a person said, oh, they're just pictures of things to come, it's not really important. Yeah, try in a New Testament church today to say baptism and the Lord's Supper is not important.
Right.
Deep spiritual meaning.
Yeah.
But pointing to something larger and deeper as it connects to Christ. So that's what we're trying to do in these. For instance, not only are they pointing forward to Christ and the true tabernacle in heaven, the true high priest, but they're also pointing back. And there's something about their tabernacle and temple that reaches back and reaches forward. By that, I mean, it also reaches back to Eden. And there's a lot of Edenic themes in the tabernacle. Eden was basically heaven coming down to the earth, perfection of beauty and enjoyment, relationship with God, especially among humans. And the tabernacle was capturing that, trying to get us back to those, that understanding of beauty, of precision, of relationship with God, of seeing yourself in need of God's grace and mercy and forgiveness. And of course, all of that is fulfilled in the person of Christ. And he brings that beauty into his house now, the New Testament church, and will manifest it in the kingdom age, in the millennial, in the new heavens and new earth and new Jerusalem. So that flow from Eden to the new Jerusalem, as the Bible opens and closes, carries itself through the tabernacle and is a central element to that, central part of that whole puzzle. So even things like the building materials, if you think of it in general, the building materials were materials of the earth. But the glory of God came down into the Holy of Holies. So this union of heaven and earth in that structure, God's very presence. But they were to build it with actual materials that were part of the created earth. And so you have things like the pillars for the screen, it's Exodus 26:37, were in not just the pillars, other items in the tabernacle, but this says it was made of acacia wood covered with gold. Okay, the gold is obviously a symbol or picture of divinity, of Christ, of God, the glory of God, the holiness and purity of God. The acacia wood would be symbolic of humans or the things of the earth. But when we're talking about Christ, we're talking about Jesus was acacia wood and covered with gold, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
So the incarnation. So the tabernacle, the building materials and the precision of it, such as acacia wood covered with gold, is just a visual way to help us better understand the incarnation, where both fused into one item, you might say. And that's Jesus as both God and man. And so that's a very important doctrine for us. And then, of course, he is the great high priest. And you look in a place like Exodus 29, where Aaron and his sons were inaugurated or commissioned to begin their official priesthood as the tabernacle was being built. And it said that they were to be separated and anointed and set apart for 7 days. And then they would begin their priesthood. Well, again, reaching back to Eden in the original 7 days of creation, and everything being put into place at the end of 7 days. The priesthood of the Mosaic, what should we say, law structure in the priesthood and the tabernacle was put into place after 7 special days. So over and over throughout the Bible, you have this constantly reaching back to Eden, reaching forward to the millennial and beyond, and always highlighting Christ all the way through. And if you really grab hold of that properly, then a study of the tabernacle, instead of causing your eyes to cross and your brain to kind of get sleepy, it just becomes interesting, because everywhere at every turn you're wondering, okay, what's this have to do with Christ? Okay, but it's and the glory of God, and this is his house, and this is his dwelling place. So okay, Christ in his church, Christ in his return. Because you have this, when God came down in what we call the Shekinah glory, which Shekinah just means permanency or constancy, remaining, it came down to remain there, and it remained until it would lift up in the pillar of fire, pillar of cloud, and move them forward, and then it would return to the Holy of Holies. But that cloud and fire itself is very second coming language, isn't it?
Yes.
Very many scriptures speak about him coming in the clouds and with the clouds, and just as we talk about his cloud coming, but within the same context, many passages speak about the fire of purification, the fire of judgment, fire of destruction, all the things that fire represents. So even that cloud and fire way back there in the tabernacle in the wilderness, 3,500 years ago, reaches forward to the return of Christ. Those themes of cloud and fire are very much a part of the end times and Christ's return. So it's just what we're trying to maybe describe or explain is letting these themes connect themselves with every part of the Bible and show how it's an ongoing building drama leading to the return of Christ, new heavens and new earth and new Jerusalem. And
I think of a verse, Brother Rick, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. And so you've been talking about the fusion of earth and deity, and how that it's portrayed in so many different ways and levels, even in Jesus himself. And so God is very much invested in the earth. And I think that's why we keep seeing this fusion, even in the millennial reign or beyond. I think you pointed this out one time, that you're going to have humans on the earth, but you also have angels guarding the gates. So there's this fusion of a spiritual element in terms of the hosts of angels, angelic beings, and humans. So this continual connection.
Exactly. So like in the tabernacle, you have Moses going up on the mountain, which is kind of a figure of us going up to God and meeting God where he is. But in a larger sense, God comes down to man. And again, always looking for Christ. I mean, that's John 1:14, isn't it? That he dwelt among us. The glory of God dwelt among us. And that word dwelt means tent or tabernacle. So he tabernacled among us. He who came down. And so the millennial, I mean, and we talk about this some, but this is, to me, it's a pretty major point. The emphasis of most so-called Christian religions is for us to go to heaven. But the emphasis of the Bible is that God comes down to us. And the millennial is God in the form of Jesus Christ, the resurrected, glorified Son of Man, comes down to rule the earth. And that the saints receive their glorified bodies, if we remain forever in heaven, we could just remain spirits with no new bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason for the new bodies is because we're going to come down to a literal earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's God's whole purpose. And so Jesus came and dwelt among us. And we beheld him. We saw him. We were able to touch him, hear him, and love him, and hold on to him, and all those things John talks about in 1 John. And so, like at the end of John chapter 1, Jesus said, hereafter, which is kind of a key term speaking about his return, hereafter you shall see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man.
Mm-hmm.
So in the millennial, there's going to be some sort of union in a more visible and real experience way, a merging, you might say, of heaven and earth, that in some way is there now. Much of it is hidden. Much of it is not realized because of partly our limitations, partly because we're not in glorified bodies yet, partly because Jesus is not here yet.
Mm-hmm.
But wherever Jesus is, that's where his angels want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're constantly going back and forth from heaven to earth. It's like this barrier, we might say, that's there now is removed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see that God's creation of the heavens and earth are not intended to be like totally separate compartments that never have any connection with each other.
Right.
When we die, we go to heaven, no more connection to earth. No, we get new bodies and we come back to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then heaven and earth is opened to each other more than they are now.
I wonder, how the priests would alternate their courses. So a certain family would be on duty, as it were, and the other priest would be, let's just say, off duty. And they would rotate these courses. I think there were 24 courses. And you're talking right now, referencing that verse, henceforth you'll see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. I wonder if the angels in heaven will come down to the earth in their own course. I wonder if God is going to rotate these angels to stand guard at the gates, and then they go back, and then another course comes in, this up and down. You just made me think of that. So,
well, I mean, you may well be right. I mean, the 24 courses of priests that David set up, so twice a year,
mm-hmm.
basically in the lunar year,
mm-hmm.
they would serve their role. And of course, 24 is 2 times 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the New Jerusalem has 2 times 12, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
12 gates being the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 foundations being the 12 apostles.
Yeah.
So you have a form of 24
mm-hmm.
even built into the New Jerusalem. And
mm-hmm.
of course, 144
mm-hmm.
is an important number, 144,000, 144 regarding the size and so forth. It is 12 times 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so that number seems to be, of course, we say 12 is the number of governmental perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why Jesus chose 12 apostles.
Yes.
He wanted that connection
mm-hmm.
in thought, in
mm-hmm.
principle, to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
12 sons of Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 12 apostles and the start of the New Testament church represent a continuation of that perfect government God
mm-hmm.
desires. He desired it in Israel. They never quite achieved it.
Mm-hmm.
He desires it in the church. We never quite achieve it. But the 12 forming the hoped for perfect government of Israel, and the 12 representing the hope for perfect government of the church, both will be realized in that kingdom age,
mm-hmm.
the perfect government of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
With
that's why they couldn't leave it at 11 when Judas fell. They had to get that 12.
They had to get
knew.
that 12.
Yeah.
They had to get that 12.
Yeah.
And then that brings up the argument about who is the real 12th that shall judge the 12
Oh,
tribes of Israel. Is it Paul or is it so?
Yeah.
Someone said one time though that the problem is not as big as we want to think. That Matthias was the 12th who took the place of Judas, and then when Herod killed James, that left him back down to 11.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
For James.
Yeah.
That's
By
kind
default.
It's kind of a way around it, isn't it? But there might be something there.
Oh,
But yeah, all this 12, and of course 7 is a really important number in the whole thing,
mhm.
all the way through. And whenever you study prophecy, you come across the number 7 often,
Mhm.
and we may deal with that someday in a deeper way.
Mhm.
But maybe just to give a little tidbit for people, and probably some of people who watch this already know this, and maybe have forgotten it. Like with me, it kind of slipped my mind a little bit to studying again recently that the number 7 in Hebrew has the same root as the word swear and oath.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, the word oath, or to say I swear, literally carries the meaning of I sevens myself. And one of the reasons why God may have incorporated the number 7 so much, I mean, we're fond of saying it's the number of perfection or completion, but there's something deeper, more spiritual, and that is every time, since God uses the number 7 so often in prophecy, there's something really deep and mysterious about him really saying all of these 7s means I'm going to keep my oath.
Yeah. Yeah. Something confirmed, a confirmation.
And especially
yeah.
we always go back to the promises to Abraham.
Mhm.
And so all the way through the rest of the Bible, God is saying over and over and over and over and over again, I want to keep that promise I made to Abraham.
Yeah.
You just wait and see.
Yeah. Just wait and see. Yeah.
Now, all these 7s are simply just a way to emphasize that.
Uh-huh.
7, that in the back of our mind, in that still small voice, that whisper in our spirit, whenever we see the number 7, maybe that whisper is saying to our spirits, this is my oath that I'm going to keep one day.
Mhm.
You just wait and see.
Makes me wonder what the 7 thunders uttered.
You had to bring that up, didn't
I
you?
did. Oh my.
So we may develop that sometime in the future and look at a number of examples of that. What else about the tabernacle? Because our purpose is not to go into detail about the structure or even the priesthood or the sacrifices, but to draw principles from them as they apply to Christ, especially, and to the New Testament church. And any study of Hebrews that a person does is going to force them back, if they do a thorough study of Hebrews, to spend a lot of time in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and just go through all those long chapters, giving all the details. Then when you read Hebrews, it helps you to realize how that Christ and his coming and his death, his resurrection, his ascension, and his return is all going to be very precise. Build it according to the pattern I told you in the mount.
Yes.
Don't do it any other way. Jesus, and that's one reason why Jesus, when he was here, especially in the Gospel of John, would say, I came not to do my own will, but the will of my Father. I say nothing of myself. I only say what my Father tells me to say. Well, isn't that the spirit of see that you build it according to the pattern that I gave you. In other words, if you will hear my voice, as he said, the Shema over and over and over, listen to me, pay attention to me. And Jesus was the living embodiment of the Shema. Jesus heard the voice of his Father and did exactly to the jot and tittle of his Father's will. That's what God wanted Moses to do in building the tabernacle. So,
and couple that with the right spirit.
And the right spirit and truth.
Spirit and truth.
Spirit and truth. So, I mean, this is not a path that would maybe stay on very long, but it's another path from the tabernacle that applies to Christ, of that principle of only do what I told you to do, nothing else. And Jesus came and did nothing else but what the Father sent him to do. And that's why on the cross, he could say truthfully, it is finished. I did exactly what my Father sent me to do. In his return will be the same thing. So the tabernacle speaks about all of those things as they tie to Christ. And we need to see that as we do any kind of thorough study of the tabernacle. What else do you want to bring up about the tabernacle, Mike? We might in the next session or two have a few more things to bring out as we close out Exodus and we start thinking about where we want to go next, maybe get them to the promised land. And then, we may want to stay with it through the books of Joshua forward, or we may want to go into something else. I was thinking maybe we may want to do a study through Daniel or do some other good subject that we can take apart. But I think these number of sessions we've done so far, not to beat a dead horse today, not to beat a dead horse, because when we're talking about trying to find Christ in the Old Testament, we've probably, we'll find out someday when he reveals it to us, uncovered about 1%. There's a whole lot more. And we've not done a very good job of even doing that. But I think we've done enough sufficient to where anyone watching these videos or listening to the audio, their mindset might change a little bit. And from now on, anytime they're reading, studying, preparing sermons or lessons from the Old Testament, there's that still small voice, that whisper to their spirit saying, where is Christ? Where is Christ? What does this have to do with Christ? Where does it lead up to his first coming, second coming, his death, his resurrection, his house, his church? Where is it in here? And with that mindset, you'll start seeing it everywhere.
Yes, amen. Well, where do we go to from here?
Well, I have a few more outlines of sermons I preached on this from. I want to talk some, maybe next session, about the artisans, the spirit-filled artisans that built the tabernacle and how that applies to saints today in the church, because there's some really good connections there. And then I think it'd be good for us to spend some time on the golden calf incident, what all that means, how that affected them. That's a pretty big deal. Close out the book of Exodus with some finishing remarks, maybe a few things about Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, just in general. But we've spent a lot of time with them at Mount Sinai. We spent a lot of time with them so far in the wilderness, so not too many more sessions in the wilderness. We probably need to go to 1 Corinthians 10 and talk about how that journey has important lessons for us as we serve in his house today. So anyway, maybe let me see, we're at 59 now.
Yeah, this is 59. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think by 60, I shouldn't say, should I? I would say at the most, maybe 65 sessions total. We can kind of wind up the wilderness journey.
Okay.
And have dealt with enough principles in that part of the Bible that points to Christ that will encourage people to study further and then think about maybe where we'd like to go next.
Have we brought out? I think we did the overall pattern. I'm pretty sure we did in earlier sessions of the pattern of assembling the parts, and then the blood sacrifice. And then
we
the cloud.
just kind of mentioned in passing, but that would be really good. Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Maybe I don't think I maybe didn't have a lot of that in one of my sermon outlines that we're using for these. So maybe if you want to develop something, that'd be a good next session.
Okay.
That way you can do most of the talking next session.
No, I don't want to do most of the talking.
I want to be the one taking notes.
Yeah. There is something though when you mentioned the artisans or craftsmen, I think.
Yeah.
Old King James. How that I don't think they necessarily had those skills. I think he gave those skills to them. Maybe they had some kind of seed inclination or desire, but I think those skills that he gave to them were implanted in them. They had to be special to get the pattern exactly like he wanted. But as we go along, I'd like to tie that in with the idea of the fear of the Lord. And I'll send you something that will kind of explain what I mean.
Okay. What you plan on leading out next session?
I don't know about leading out, but I'll supply that
Well, and I
information.
have an outline on those craftsmen too.
Oh, okay.
So, we can share
Okay.
responsibilities, but yeah, I mean, that's really important. And those are direct ties into, Ephesians 4, 1 Corinthians 12, and all that about spirit-filled vessels in his temple today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craftsmen and artisans and priests. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All of that. So that's pretty rich.
Pretty rich, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't want to, we shouldn't pass that up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we just went from 64 to 74?
We'll just go until we stop.
We'll go until we stop. That's right.
And then we'll start a different general subject. I'm sure we'll still always be talking about Christ a lot, but maybe another portion of the Tanakh. Books of what we call the Old Testament.
Yeah, the Tanakh. Yeah.
But I like that word Tanakh better.
Yeah.
I think it represents what Jesus, called the law and the prophets and the Psalms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanakh captures that better than just the term Old Testament.
Right.
Because there's just something, the average person in the pew, and again, maybe it's the fault of we pastors, it probably is, but there's just something about the average person in the pew, the term Old Testament has a little bit of a negative connotation. Yeah,
a dispensationalism.
Flavor. Exactly. Yeah. Especially if the pastor is a strong dispensationalist. It's kind of like when you're talking about the end times and someone's pre-tribulation rapture. And so they say, well, we're going to do 50 sermons on the end times because so much of the Bible is about the end times and the tribulation. And so we need to, and then at the end, but in every sermon they say, but we won't be here. But it's still really important, and a lot of the Bible is talking about it, but that's okay, we won't be here. So it's a little bit like that. What you're saying is
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So wow, can you believe it? Our next session will be number 60. It's just amazing. Yeah,
we haven't had one fuss yet, have we?
Oh, we could, but I refuse.
We're getting too old for that. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for recording this with your Zoom instead of my GoToMeeting.
Yeah.
So it's all in your hands to process and put up and everything. And
Yeah.
I'll be anxious to see it come up and see if there's no glitches like we used to have on Zoom. Maybe.
Yeah. So far, we made it pretty much. We made it all the way
looks
through.
It's looked real good. Nothing's
Yeah.
looked real weird.
Yeah, I
Good
know.
sign.
I think the difference between GoTo and Zoom is when our viewers go to our channel, we're switched. It seems, as I recall, we're on the other
really?
side. Yeah.
They each wanted to be similar to each other, Zoom and GoToMeeting, but they wanted to also be distinct from each other.
Right,
So
right,
the
yeah.
layout's a little different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm left and sometimes I'm right. No, actually, I may not always be right as in correct, but when it comes to politics.
Yes. Or are we closing out with politics now?
Well, we haven't said much about politics.
Yeah.
We might, as we get closer to the November midterm elections, I think politics may come into our, what do you call it, banter.
It probably will. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And how it ties into the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So thanks, Mike, and thanks everyone. And
yes, thank you, everyone.
Next session, we'll pray for you and you pray for us.
All right. Right. Bye.